I'm Johnny Scoville, and this is Chase the Heat, part 3 of sort of an educational series I've started. And there were so many questions in part 2 that people left in the comment section. I wanted to address them. I didn't want to let too much time go by. I am not sure how often these sort of things will happen, but there were so many questions, and I just wanted to address them. So, but if you have questions that you haven't heard, you have an answer for, leave a comment in this video, and I'll address it in part 4. The first one is Custard Cream 33. Hey Johnny, I only just noticed, but I very rarely, if ever, see your nose running when you're eating peppers. At what point does it stop? Is it a tolerance thing? How can the tolerance change your nose running? I thought about that, and I think it's kind of I wish I could give you a more concrete answer. I think I think tolerance may have something to do with it. I know that all of the effects from peppers are lessened as my tolerance goes higher. So I think that's in part of it. But with me, allergy seasonals. There are times where there are things in the air that really bother me, and so I think that plays a part with me personally. I hope that helps. But to kind of answer again, because I noticed that all of the symptoms, or the effects, I should say, of capsaicin on the body are lessened as my tolerance goes higher. So. And I'm able to taste more, which is really cool because your taste buds are heightened. Boxster Box 2164. Do you wash your peppers from the grocery store or the ones sent to you by mail to remove pesticides? I've been eating peppers for about 2 to 3 years and recently just started washing my pods. I think I've washed pods once or twice, like a whole bunch of pods from a grower because they were just dirt on them because they picked them, they weren't cleaned off. But from the grocery store, I always wash them. I absolutely always wash pods from the grocery store. But I will be honest, from the growers, no, never. I mean, a couple times in 7 years. I just don't. I eat them. So as far as bacteria, everybody says peppers will kill you. If it was, we wouldn't be rolling into season 8 coming up. So as far as picking up, some sort of strange illness from the peppers, from pesticides, I don't know. I feel fine. It hasn't affected me a bit. No, I'm kidding. I would always wash them from the grocery store. I just haven't I'm just being honest. I have it with the growers that send me stuff. We've got Big Meech Burns. There you go. What are all the different genres of pepper flavors, like earthy, floral, bitter, and what are some of the examples of peppers that are indicative of each category? Good question. Earthy, okay, fruity pods, red pods, orange pods, yellow pods are more fruity. Okay, they're gonna have fruitier flavors. Green pods, mustard pods, chocolate pods are more earthy, and the green has a grassy, like if you eat jalapenos or serranos, they kind of have a grassy flavor. Floral and bitter doesn't come with a specific pod. It's often associated with super hots. So floral notes and bitter notes come with super hots, but it's not something where I can say, this pepper you gotta watch out for it, because now I will say this, in my experience, chocolate pods tend to be floral. Although I've got a bunch lately that weren't, so there really isn't any. There are certain things, generalizations you can make, like ahi pods are generally very sweet. You know what I mean? Super hots can be bitter. So, but there's no specific category you can just lump a pepper into. It'd be more. But as far as fruity, like all your red, orange, yellow pods, they tend to be fruity. White pods sometimes have notes of melon, I've noticed, which is really cool. Chocolate pods have a nutty finish sometimes, and smoky notes on chocolate pods that you don't get on other pods. I hope that helps. Big Meech Burns. Now we got Taylor for McClure. No, Taylor McClure. Sorry, I can't read, man. Taylor McClure 444. You talk about having a pepper tested. What is the process and who does it? Labs can do it. There's a lot of labs that can do it. Eurofins is one lab that does it. But what they do is, now it was originally started by a man named Wilbur Scoville. Wilbur Scoville, no relation to me. But what he did was he was I think he was a pharmacist. But what he did was he created a system by which you take a dehydrated sample of pepper, and you add it to in something to hold it. And then you add ounces of water, and how many ounces of water you would need to add before test subjects can no longer taste any pepper, any heat. And that's the Scoville heat unit. That's how it, now today it's done with very high-tech equipment, but the results are essentially the same. There are people that don't believe it. Here's the problem with Scoville heat units. It's the big lie in the industry. Everybody lies about, you know, how many sauce companies, how many hot sauces are there? How many hot sauces say they're the hottest sauce in the world? And how many can be the hottest sauce in the world? Only one, but they all say it. Another thing that it sort of has to do with your question, but and you know, as far as like I'm just gonna go with the ghost pepper. It's about 1 million. Everybody thinks that when you eat a ghost pepper, it's 1 million. Well, there's a bit of a fluctuation there. Not every pod's going to be that way, and so pods fluctuate. That's something that nobody ever considers. Very few people consider. But and another thing that's a good time to answer this question. A lot of times people ask about how it accumulates. Like, let's say I have 10 ghost pepper pods. They say they're 1 million each. If I eat all 10, did I eat 10 million Scovilles? Or did I eat 10 peppers that are 1 million Scoville heat units? The answer is you ate 10 that are 1 million each. Now, it might feel like 10 million because it compounds and feels hotter each time you eat one, but it doesn't accumulate like that. It doesn't. So it's not that you've eaten 10 million Scoville. Because I've had people watch me do a contest where, you know, against the UK Chili Queen. You ate 17 million Scoville. You know, it's not how it works. So I thought I'd throw that in there. Thank you. Hang on. What was it? That was Taylor McClure. All right, now we got Charlie Sheen. There you go. Little Chuck Sheen. Charlie Sheen, when? You may have already answered this before, but do you ever make yourself vomit after eating something really hot so you don't digest and have issues related to digestion? Challenges and regular videos. On a big challenge, I certainly will. No question about it. And you know, I guess it's not something we talk about. Regular eating pods, half a dozen pods or under, I'm fine. But more than that, if it's a contest, like the last couple of big challenges, I absolutely have purged. If you watch a belt match, for instance, like a League of Fire belt match, after the events, when people tap out, because they don't all tap out at once, people start dropping out. They leave and they disappear. You're still watching the people on stage. What that person is doing is ejecting those peppers. You know, it's one thing to digest a half a dozen soup rods. That can be a challenge. Like at the beginning of the season, I can't do that. At the beginning of the season, that would destroy me. But at the end of the season, when my tolerance is high, that's not a problem. But the idea of passing 50 soup rods through your system, nah. Not this guy anyway. So that's in big contests, it's absolutely, in big challenges, it's absolutely something. By the way, it's also a good, you know, talking about cap cramps, because people have been asking about that. We dealt with it in the previous video. If you're having cap cramps, sometimes, even though the cap cramps have already started, making yourself vomit can alleviate some of the problems. Just saying. Thank you, Charlie. All right, Thumpaholic. When growing, do growers accidentally cross-pollinate, or does it have to be pretty deliberate to make hybrids? Great question. A little iced tea. It's brisk. All right. To answer it, easy answer, both. There are obviously, you can manually cross-pollinate pods. It can be done, obviously. But some of the great accidents have been accidental crosses. The chocolate bula, I did one today at work. Accidental cross. So nature works. So, you know, nature's going to do what nature does, but you can certainly influence it and kind of force. And because of that, we can create things with human intervention that could never happen on its own, and that's a cool thing. I did that years ago when I was married to my kid's mom. I raised and bred boa constrictors. We had albinos, striped, anatharistic, some really cool color patterns, and we made some very, very cool snakes that couldn't have happened in nature, or very unlikely to happen in nature. So it was kind of a neat thing. Anyway, GS, someone told me that pepper seeds stick to your stomach and it's not good for your stomach. Is that true? That is not true. There's a lot of misconceptions about pepper seeds, that they're hot, and they're not. They're certainly hot if they have pepper oils on the outsides of them, which they will when they're in a pepper. But if you were to remove the oils from the outside of the seed with a saline solution and wash them off and eat just the seeds, you'll find there's zero heat. And they're not bitter. They taste nutty. It's kind of cool. So they're not bad for your stomach. In fact, capsaicin is not bad for your stomach. Capsaicin will not cause ulcers. Capsaicin has been scientifically and empirically proven to lower stomach acidity. We got Dre, CT6DB. Question for part 3. We have a sambal sauce in the Netherlands. It's like spicy, thick sauce from Indonesia. And you also have these things in Suriname. Do you have those in the U.S.? What are your thoughts about these sauces? Great day, greetings, Andre. All right, Andre. I love sambal sauces. They're savory, and here's the funny thing about a sambal sauce. There's certain meals. If you're cooking the right meal where that sauce works, while you're eating, you think to yourself, there's no other sauce that could work in the moment like this one does. So it's a very, very good sauce. Great for cooking. Great for Indian dishes. Very, very cool. I dig it for sure. It's spicy. It's savory. I'm a big savory guy. I like savory, so I'm a big sambal fan. Thank you, Andre, for your question. Now we've got Soulfire 2588. Thanks for this. It's an interesting hearing all of this information in different perspectives. I personally get hiccups when I eat super oats, but I can't honestly say that I've ever had an endorphin rush from them before. I've gradually trained myself up to the super hot level. Trinidad Maruga scorpions are my current pepper of choice by eating pieces of them and just gradually increasing the amount of the pepper from tiny pieces to slices to the full chili. That's probably why I've never had a full-on endorphin rush. But that's the absolute, I've said a million times, not a million. A couple times I've said you can become a raging chili head and never hurt yourself. And right there, Soulfire is a perfect example. Just by eating little pieces of pepper and increasing it. It's a longer process, for sure. You can do that like David and Goliath, the Pepper Apprentice. He went the fast track, all right? But you can definitely go slow. Now, if you go the fast track the way the Pepper Apprentice did, you're going to experience lots of endorphin rushes because you aren't there yet and you're pushing yourself way beyond what you can do. Now, my advice, and Big Meech Burns also agreed. I did the exact same thing. Big Meech Burns says, I do the exact same thing. An endorphin dump usually comes after being almost in panic from the heat. That's it. That's what I was going to say. You've heard me say, you got to push, you got to go well past your comfort zone. Well, why do you think they call it a comfort zone? Because you're comfortable in it. You've got to get yourself to the point where you're really uncomfortable. You got to push yourself to the point where you're on the verge of freaking out. And I know it sounds like a crazy thing, but there's legions of chili heads that are like, yeah, for real. So you just got to push yourself. Now the payoff is this: you're gonna burn. It's not gonna kill you. It's gonna drive your tolerance up big time. But the payoff is when your body senses that there's something traumatic happening inside, it's gonna unlock all those endorphins and flood your system with it, and you're gonna feel something special and beautiful and natural and legal and healthy. It's a beautiful thing, but you just got to push yourself. Now, it brings up an interesting point. It's far easier for a person who's brand new at the game to get an endorphin dump than for somebody like me. I've got to eat most of these peppers in this box to get an endorphin. That's not quite true. If I ate 5 of those red ones, I'd get an endorphin run. Maybe 3 or 4, actually. But bottom line is, the point is, I've got to eat a lot more than somebody who's brand new at the game. So if you're brand new, you're watching this and you're like, man, I just started my journey. I'm on the capsaicin highway, but I'm just at jalapenos. No shame. I was just at jalapenos once. For a long time, for years, I was just at jalapenos because I didn't know there's anything else. But if you're on jalapeno and you want to get an endorphin rush, I got a simple way to do it. In most grocery stores in America, you're going to have choices of buying some peppers. You're going to see some jalapenos, you're gonna probably see some hot orange habaneros, and you might see some serranos. Here's the recipe. If you want to get an endorphin rush and you're somebody who's on jalapenos, next time you're in the grocery store, buy half a dozen habaneros and go home. Make sure you prep well, but don't stop at one. Eat 2 of them. And I'm telling you, if you do, you will have an experience that is so magnificent and feels so good. When it's over, you'll say, where have I been? It's a beautiful thing. And the good news is it's going to offset a lot of the pain. A lot of the pain is going to just be nullified. Now, it doesn't mean you won't have some after effects. You may cramp a little bit because you've just started, so that may irritate your stomach a little bit, but I can promise you, if you're on jalapeno, you can eat a jalapeno. If you go to the store and you get 2 habaneros and you eat them, report back to me how that goes for you. So, the bottom line is you really got to go past your comfort zone to make that happen. Okay. Okay, now we got that. I'm going to come back to that one. Okay, Uncle Ubba 9593 said you forgot to mention the term F1 and 2 and so on. So we're going to do that now. Let's say that I were to take these 2 peppers and cross them, all right? Doesn't matter what they are, but let's say I took these 2 peppers and crossed them. The fruit, from the first time I did this, the fruit that comes from that crossing is called filial generation, F-I-L-I-A-L, filial generation. We should abbreviate it in the pepper world by just saying F, instead of saying, hey, it's filial 1 or filial 2. So that is what F1 stands for. So F1 stands, now the fruit that comes, so when the fruit from this is going to be F1. We take those seeds and we grow them out, and those are F1 plants. When we take those seeds, when the fruit comes from those, the seeds inside those peppers are going to be F2. When we grow them out, we're growing F2 plants. But the fruit that is yielded from the F2 plants creates F3 seeds, the F3 generation, filial 3rd generation. And what happens is, when you have 2 pods that you want to cross, they're not going to look like that, and they're not going to look like that. They're going to be all over the place. When you create fruit, the first time they're going to be all over the place from the seeds, from this first, all right? So what a grower does is he'll look through the different pods, and let's say he says, this is the phenotype I want to grow. So what he's going to do, he's going to take the seeds from that phenotype. He's going to grow these out. This is an F3 plant, going with the example I've been leading up with. So when we grow this out and the fruit comes out, the fruit from this will be filial 4, all right? There's going to be less of the parents. Each generation, you're going to have fewer pods that look like either of the parents and more pods that look like the desired effect that you're looking for. Now you do that for 7 or ideally 8 generations, 8 seasons, and your pod is then a glorious thing. It's called stabilized. What that means is if this is a stable pepper, I cut it open, I pull every seed out and grow them all the pods are going to look just like that, or very close. And this, like these 2 would be, they all look like this because it's stable. Now, when a pod is not stable, like a good one that comes to my mind right away is Zing, the Zing pepper. They don't really know what the parents are, and they say when you buy the seeds from all of the sites, it's an unstable cross. They're very cool to say that. What that means is, when you grow them out, the phenotype, which is simply the outward appearance of the pepper, what it looks like, is going to be all over the place because it is not stabilized. And that's an important thing, you know what I mean? If you're a grower, you know, let me tell you a dilemma that growers are faced with. They come up with a new pepper. It's amazing. They want to make money on it, but it's not stable yet. So they've got to grow it for 8 seasons before it's stable. And they're like, a lot of them will start selling the seeds right away, and they'll say to people, hey, it's not stable, but this is what you're going to get. You know what I mean? Like if you took before the Primatale was stable, even if it wasn't stable, it's still creating crazy hot pods. So. But so that handles the filial question. Kid with an Evo says, what's next? You've done so much already. What do you envision as your largest challenge you have yet to do? Get to Australia. I'm kidding, kid with an Evo. I have a couple of major stunts, not even really a challenge, but stunts that involve peppers that are going to involve a lot of money. And I'm going to do them. It's just going to take me a while to get to that point. It's going to involve a lot of planning and just a lot. It's a bigger production. So I've got 3 or 4 really big ones planned. One of them is a skydive. I'll tell you that. The other ones I'm not going to tell you, but I have a couple of really big ones. So I got plenty left. All right, now Bizzle, my man Bizzle, asked a question. What's the difference between tincture and extract? I love tincture, but I hate extract. And then kind of piggybacking on that, Evan Kirk, 97, says, what do you recommend for extract to try? I've been curious about Mad Dog's products for a while. Just bought the Ghost Pepper Tequila extract. So I'm going to answer both of those questions at the same time. I did some investigation, a little bit of homework on, where is it? Man, I thought I had it. Let me see here. Basically, the big difference is with tincture, it's created using alcohol or oil, and extract is not. And that's one of the major differences. Now, they're both extractives of the plant, meaning in both of those products, whether it's an extract or a tincture, you're extracting capsaicin from the plant, all of the plant, to create something hotter, okay? So they're both extracts, but tincture is made using alcohol or oil, and extract is not. Tincture is the drops that you see me take, and there's some, as far as what I'd recommend, there are some good ones. If you're somebody who's new on the pepper journey and you want to try a tincture, but the idea of doing something, because here's the thing, the tinctures that I do are 2 or 3 million, up to 10 million Scoville heaters. They're crazy hot, like blow you up with one teeny drop. But if you're somebody who wants to you got the bug and you want to try a tincture, then what I would urge you to do is go to Jay's Small Batch Hot Sauce. Tell him I sent you. He's a great guy. He's a mixologist, a pepperhead sauce maker, but his training is a mixologist, so he thinks differently. He has some tinctures that are made for drinks, and they're lower heat and they are delicious, and you can put them in iced tea and other drinks. So if you want to try some lower heat levels, reach out to Jason from Jay's Small Batch Hot Sauce. As far as the hot ones, listen, I'm a tried and true, seriously hot pepper guy. Tom Broom makes the best tinctures. What he does, if you want to try some seriously hot ones, he makes tinctures. And what he does is his tinctures are aged. I've seen other people age them, but his are aged 2 years. And when you have, listen, if you have I don't drink, I'm sober, I don't drink alcohol, but everybody knows that there are certain scotches that you can spend a fortune on. Because they're older and they've been around forever. When you age something, it changes the character of the flavor and it changes the heat. So if you want to try some really exquisite, just artisan tincture, check out Tom Broom from Seriously Hot Peppers. You can't go wrong. So I wanted to answer both those questions together since they were kind of similar. Let's see, where did I leave off? Give me just a second. All right. Broken Charlie, how do you learn to taste all these different flavors and peppers? It's clearly not just a tolerance thing. I can eat loads of pods like you do, but most taste the same to me. Some are a little bit bitter, but besides that, I can never really describe anything. Also, do you know if it's possible to be immune to cap cramps? I know someone who does lots of challenges and tells me they've never suffered an aftermath. Aftermath and cap cramps are different things. I'd love to eat peppers with them. I could help them get an endorphin rush. No one's immune to endorphin rush because it's a physiological reaction to a traumatic situation within your body. All right? It's something that we all have. So nobody's born without it. Either he's just a beast, he maybe have a really high pain threshold like I do, But if I could certainly help him get an endorphin rush if he was so inclined. But as far as how do you learn to taste all these? Great question, Broken Charlie. How do you learn to taste all these different flavors? I think it's absolutely something that comes with experience, time, and tolerance. All right? When I first started, like for instance, I am tasting things now in peppers that probably they always were there. I just wasn't able to put my finger on it. Like recently, like a nutty finish on some chocolate pies. That's not something I could have put my finger on 6 years ago. But through eating lots and lots and lots and thousands of peppers, that's where it comes from. Just like that. But another person asked, I don't remember who it was, but how do you know when it's peaked? Again, that is absolutely an experience thing. If you've eaten 50 peppers, it's going to be difficult for you to know with sure, 100% assurance that it's peaked, because sometimes it can dip. It took me a while, but now it's like it's so obvious to me. It's like a switch. I can just feel it. So it's not. So to me, the flavors is something that takes. It just took time with me. Here's one thing you may want to do. If you're eating a chocolate pod, we know that they sometimes will have smoky notes, earthy tones, a nutty finish, coffee notes. We know those flavors can appear in chocolate pods. So as you're eating a chocolate pod, look for those notes and see if you find them. Then you can become more in tune with them. They're there. You just got to find them. If you have a yellow pod, we know that they're citrusy. They can taste lemon-like. And that's really a good pod to start with because they're not quite as hot as the chocolates. But if you get a yellow pod, look for the citrus notes because they're really citrusy. And you can start looking for notes that you hear me say in certain types of pods, and you can start becoming a little bit better at it. But it's just an experience thing. The next Lennon, I thought I was the only weirdo that got that closing hand thing with the Naga Claw, they call it. Naga, it's a pepper. And when they call it Naga Claw. Sometimes your hands cramp up and it looks just like this and they're done. It looks like a claw. You're done. You can't move. I've been in pepper contests where I've seen it happen. And I'm being really serious now. When you're sitting across from somebody in a pepper contest and their hands start to do this and they can't, it's creepy. It's freaky. It's like right in front of you. It's not nothing dangerous about it. As soon as the contest is over, 10 minutes, they're fine. But it happens. You're just like me, next Leonard. And I've had it only happen a few times, but boy, when it does, it's the strangest thing because your hands just all of a sudden you can't move. And with me, this is exactly the shape. My hand your fingers just want to curl up. By the same token, when I have really, really bad calf cramps, my knees I want to pull my knees up to my chest to kind of help. It's strange. Here's a great one. This is from 196, or was it? Hold on. No, 1961 Asheville. I wasn't sure if it was 196. I had to zoom in. 1961 Asheville. Here we go. Thanks for the information, Johnny. I've been frustrated by my nose running whenever I try anything spicy. I love spicy food, but I get embarrassed in restaurants when the nose starts dripping. I have to blow. It's a real bummer. However, I did cover this with my doctor, and he said that I have something called. I read it in the wrong order. I should have read this right after the very first one, talking about my running nose. I spoke to my doctor. He said I may have something called gustatory rhinitis. He prescribed a nasal spray called ipratropium bromide, which does help as long as I remember to take at least 4 hours before consuming hot food. So the only problem is it's $25 a bottle. So. If it bothered me, if I was like in restaurants and it was running like wildly, I can see looking into it, but just know this. I would just urge you, if you're just parked at a certain level and you're just happy with the heat tolerance you're at, but if you find yourself always looking for the next level of heat, you may get to a point where that medicine may be unnecessary because your tolerance has risen. It'll be a hard thing to know. Because if your tolerance has risen to the point where you don't need it, but you're still taking the medicine, you won't know that you won't need it because you're still taking the medicine to prevent it from showing. So, but I'm glad you're able to get relief from that. All right, and that will conclude questions from part Trey. Good questions from everybody, honestly. So listen, you guys, if chances are what's going to happen is the questions that I've read or answered on this video is probably going to spur people. Oh, it made me think of something. Go to the comment section of this video, leave your comment. It can be about peppers, about me, about the chili world, about hot sauce, whatever your question is, leave it in the comment section. I will address it on the next one. You've all been great. Thank you for attending class and taking good notes. And the best part is I'm not going to test you. In the description box, you're going to see all the normal stuff. Right there is the pepper, right there is the boat. More videos here. Professor Scoville here. I'm Johnny Scoville, and this was Chase the Heat.